6 words that changed everything. What if I told you that one sentence, just 6 words long, helped ignite one of the greatest championship journeys in modern NBA history? Not a Game 7 buzzer beater, not a finals collapse, not a blockbuster trade, just 6 words spoken on live television. And nearly 2.5 years later, those 6 words would still be echoing through the streets of New York as confetti rained from the sky and an entire city celebrated a championship nobody thought was possible. The words? If your best player is small, you're not winning. The moment Becky Hammon said it during an ESPN discussion in December 2023, most people saw it as another basketball opinion, a hot take, a debate topic, something that would dominate social media for a day or two before disappearing into the endless cycle of NBA news. They were wrong, because whether she intended it or not, those 6 words attached themselves to one player, Jalen Brunson, a player who had spent his entire life hearing reasons why he couldn't be the guy. Too small, not athletic enough, second-round pick, not a franchise cornerstone, not a superstar, not someone who could lead a championship team. The criticism wasn't new. The difference this time was that the entire basketball world heard it. Within hours, clips exploded across social media. Knicks fans were furious. Analysts were arguing. Content creators were choosing sides. Some agreed with Hammon's historical logic. Others believed she was overlooking one of the most complete guards in basketball. But something even bigger was happening beneath the surface. A narrative had been born. Every Brunson game suddenly carried extra meaning. Every playoff performance became evidence. Every clutch shot became part of a larger argument. Could a player like Jalen Brunson actually prove the basketball world wrong? Could a guard many executives once overlooked become the face of a championship franchise? Could New York finally end more than 5 decades of frustration? At the time, the answers seemed impossible. The Knicks hadn't won a championship since 1973. Generations of fans had grown up hearing stories about glory days they had never witnessed themselves. Legends had come and gone. Dreams had reason and fine. And now the hopes of the entire city rested on a player many people still didn't fully believe in. What nobody knew was that Brunson wasn't interested in arguing. He wasn't interested in defending himself. He wasn't interested in responding on social media. He would answer the only way he ever had. On the court, one game, one series, one season at a time, and by the time this story reached its ending, the entire NBA would be forced to confront a question nobody saw coming. Was Becky Hammon wrong? Or did Jalen Brunson simply become the exception that changed everything? Because what happened next wasn't just a playoff run. It wasn't just a championship chase. It became one of the most fascinating revenge stories the NBA has seen in years. Before we continue, let me know where you're watching from today. And if you believe hard work can silence even the loudest doubters, hit that subscribe button and join our NBA community. Now comment 1 if you think Brunson was destined for greatness all along. Comment 2 if you think nobody could have predicted what was about to happen. The kid nobody fully believed in. Before Jalen Brunson became the heartbeat of Madison Square Garden, he was just another undersized guard trying to convince the basketball world to look closer. He was not built like the prototype. He was not the tallest player on the floor. He was not the fastest highlight machine, but he had something scouts could not measure with a tape, a stopwatch, or a draft board. Control, patience, footwork, and a quiet confidence that never needed attention to be real. Basketball was in his blood. His father, Rick Brunson, spent years in the NBA as a player who survived through toughness, intelligence, and preparation. Rick was not a superstar. He was a grinder, and that mattered because Jalen did not grow up learning basketball like entertainment. He learned it like a craft. Every angle mattered. Every possession mattered. Every mistake had a lesson inside it. That is why Brunson never looked rushed, even when the world around him was moving too fast. At Villanova, he became the kind of player coaches dream about and casual fans sometimes overlook. He was steady. He was disciplined. He made the right read before everyone else even saw the play forming. And when the lights got brightest, Brunson did not shrink. He won national championships, big moments, pressure games. Still, when NBA draft night came, the league hesitated. Teams looked at his size, they looked at his athletic profile, they looked at what he was not, and Dallas took him in the second round. That should have been the first warning, because every time basketball underestimated Jalen Brunson, he did not complain. He collected the insult, then he turned it into fuel. Second round pick, first round heart. In Dallas, Jalen Brunson was not introduced as the future of a franchise. He was introduced as a smart backup guard, a useful piece, a reliable option next to Luka Doncic. And for a while, that was the box people tried to keep him in. Luka was the superstar. Luka was the engine. Luka was the face of the Mavericks. Brunson was supposed to fit around him, make good decisions, hit open shots, and avoid mistakes. But slowly, something changed. The more Dallas trusted him, the more he revealed. He could run an offense. He could punish mismatches. He could get to the middle of the floor even when defenders knew exactly where he wanted to go. He did not overwhelm opponents with size. He broke them with timing. A shoulder fake, a pivot. A hesitation, a floater release just before the contest arrived. By the time Dallas reached the playoffs, Brunson was no longer just a role player. He was a problem. Then came the question every franchise eventually has to answer. How much do you truly believe in the player standing right in front of you? Dallas hesitated. New York did not. The Knicks saw something others were still debating. They saw a leader. They saw a closer. They saw a guard who carried himself like he had been preparing for pressure his entire life. So when New York gave him a massive contract in 2022, the reaction across the NBA was immediate. Too much money, too much risk. Not a real number one. Not the guy. And once again, Brunson heard the same old message, you are good, but not good enough. That doubt followed him to New York. And New York, more than any city in basketball, was about to find out what happens when Jalen Brunson takes doubt personally. New York's gamble. New York is not a city that waits patiently. It does not give easy look. It does not protect athletes from pressure. Madison Square Garden can make you immortal, but it can also expose you in front of the entire world. That was the stage Jalen Brunson walked onto. The Knicks had been searching for a true leader for decades. Stars had arrived before, hype had arrived before, promises had arrived before. Most of them disappeared. So when Brunson came in, fans were hopeful but careful. They had been hurt too many times, but Brunson did not sell them a fantasy. He gave them work. Night after night, he played like a man who understood exactly what the city respected. No excuse, no drama, no wasted motion. He attacked bigger defenders without fear. He slowed games down when everyone else was panicking. He hit shots that felt impossible because he had practiced them thousands of times before anyone was watching. And little by little, New York changed. The Garden started to sound different. The Knicks started to feel different. The team was no longer searching for an identity. It had one: tough, smart, unselfish, unbreakable. Brunson became more than a scorer. He became the emotional center of the franchise. His teammates trusted him. The fans believed in him. The city adopted him. But outside New York, the questions remained. Could he really be the best player on a championship team? Could a smaller guard carry that burden through 4 playoff rounds? Could he survive when defense is locked in, when the game slowed down, when every weakness became a target? That was the question hanging over everything. And then Becky Hammon said it out loud. Becky Hammon lights the fuse. Becky Hammon did not need to chase attention. Her resume already spoke loud. The NBA star. NBA assistant coach, championship mind, a coach respected by people who understand winning basketball. So when she spoke on ESPN in December 2023, her words carried weight. She was not just making noise. She was making an argument. Historically, championship teams are usually led by physically dominant stars, players who can impose themselves on both ends. Players like LeBron, Duncan, Shaq, Giannis, Durant. That was the foundation of her point. Then came the sentence that changed everything. If your best player is small, you're not winning. On paper, it was analysis. Online, it became gasoline, because the Knicks' best player was Jalen Brunson. And Knicks fans heard that sentence as a direct shot. Within hours, the clip was everywhere. Some people defended Hammon, others attacked the take. But the internet did what the internet always does. It removed the gray area. It turned a basketball discussion into a battle line. Becky Hammon became the doubter. Jalen Brunson became the underdog. And every Knicks game after that felt like part of the trial. Brunson never made it messy. He did not fire back. He did not ask for respect. He simply kept playing. But anyone watching closely could feel it. The temperature had changed. Every fourth quarter shot carried extra weight. Every playoff win felt like evidence. Every loss gave critics new life. This was no longer just about one player. It was about whether the NBA's old rules still applied. And Brunson was about to test those rules in the most unforgiving place possible. The playoffs, every game became an answer. The playoffs do not care about your story. They do not care about your reputation. They do not care how badly a city wants to believe. The playoffs reveal what is real. And for Jalen Brunson, that was the perfect stage, because his entire career had been built on proving things quietly. No speeches, no public revenge tour. Just possession after possession, putting pressure on every defense that thought it had him solved. Teams tried size. He used angles. Teams sent traps. He found shooters. Teams forced him into traffic. He created contact, spun away, and finished anyway. Every game felt like Brunson was answering the same question in a different language. Can he carry a franchise? Yes. Can he close in the fourth quarter? Yes. Can he survive playoff defense? Yes. Can he be the best player in the biggest moment? That answer was growing louder, but there was one problem. For a championship debate, great performances are not enough. You can score 40. You can win a series. You can make the city believe. But until you lift the trophy, the doubters still have room to breathe. That was what made the Hammon narrative so powerful. She did not say Brunson was bad. She said the structure of NBA history was against him, and history does not move easily. So every Knicks playoff run became both inspiring and incomplete. Each time Brunson carried them further, the belief grew stronger. Each time they fell short, the doubt survived. That tension made the story impossible to ignore. Because Brunson was no longer just chasing win, he was chasing proof. The pressure gets bigger. Pressure in New York does not arrive quietly. It builds like thunder over the skyline, slow at first, then loud enough for everyone in the league to hear. One big win turns into hope. One bad loss turns into panic. One missed shot becomes a debate show topic before sunrise. And Jalen Brunson carried all of it. Not with loud speeches, not with dramatic interviews, but with the same calm expression he had worn his entire career. The more he gave the Knicks, the more people expected. The more he proved, the more the final question remained. Can he win it all? That is the cruel thing about greatness. Once people realize you are special, they stop celebrating progress and start demanding completion. Brunson could average huge but without a championship, the debate stayed alive. Becky Hammon's words still hovered over everything. Not because she kept attacking him. She did not. But because the sentence had become part of the story, every analyst knew it, every Knicks fan remembered it, every creator online waited for the moment the story would finally flip, and Brunson kept moving like none of it mattered. That was what made him dangerous. Some players need to talk themselves into confidence. Brunson carried confidence like a secret. He let the noise live outside the locker room. Inside, the Knicks were becoming something serious. A team with edge, a team with trust, a team that believed its best player would never blink first. Behind closed doors, teammates saw what the cameras could not always capture: the early work, the film sessions, the quiet corrections. The way Brunson never let one great night make him comfortable or one bad night make him emotional, he understood something most stars never fully accept. Leadership is not just taking the last shot. Leadership is making everyone believe the next possession still belongs to them. Even when the building is shaking, even when the series is slipping, even when the outside world is already writing the ending. And that belief started spreading. Role players defended harder because Brunson never took shortcuts. Veterans sacrificed because he sacrificed. Young players followed because he never asked for anything he was not already doing himself. The Knicks were no longer a team hoping to survive the playoffs. They were becoming a team built to punish doubt. By the time the next postseason arrived, the question was no longer whether Brunson belonged among elite guards. He did. The question was whether he could do the one thing critics said his type of player could not do: lead a team all the way. And once the playoffs began, it felt like Brunson had finally decided the argument had gone on long enough. The playoff run, that changed history. There are playoff runs that make a player famous. And then there are playoff runs that change how a player is remembered forever. Jalen Brunson was entering that second category. From the opening round, something felt different. He was not just scoring. He was controlling entire games. Every possession seemed to bend around his patience. Defenders chased him over screens, only to realize he was already 2 steps ahead. Big men stepped up, and he slipped past them. Smaller guards tried to pressure him, and he used his strength to bury them in the paint. Nothing looked rushed. Nothing looked accidental. Every move had a purpose. A pump fake to freeze a defender, a shoulder bump to create space, a sudden stop in the lane, a floater release before the shot blocker could even leave the floor. The Knicks followed his rhythm. When Brunson slowed down, they slowed down. When he attacked, they attacked. When the moment got tight, everyone in the building knew where the ball was going. And somehow, defenses still could not stop it. That is when the conversation changed. Not overnight, not all at once, but game by game. The same people who once asked if Brunson was enough started asking something different. How many players in the world are actually better when the pressure is high? That is a dangerous question, because once fans start asking it, a player is no longer fighting for respect. He is fighting for legacy. The deeper the Knicks went, the louder the city became. Madison Square Garden turned into a living memory of every heartbreak the franchise had survived. Every failed season, every broken promise, every year fans wondered if they would ever see a team like this again. And Brunson carried all of it without looking overwhelmed. That was the most stunning part. He did not act like the moment was bigger than him. He acted like the moment had finally caught up to him. Every round added another layer to the story. Every win made Hammon's old comment feel more complicated. Every clutch bucket forced people to revisit the question that started everything. Was the NBA still ruled by the same old physical blueprint, or had Brunson discovered a new way to dominate? He was not overpowering teams with height. He was not jumping over defenders. He was not winning the way people were used to seeing superstars win. He was winning with balance, intelligence, timing, toughness, and emotional control. And in the playoffs, emotional control can be more dangerous than athleticism, because when everyone else gets tight, the calmest player becomes the most powerful person on the floor. That was Brunson, the calm inside New York Storm. By the time the Knicks reached the final stage, the NBA understood what was happening. This was no longer a nice underdog story. This was history moving in real time. The night Brunson silenced everyone. The finals were supposed to be the ultimate test, not just for the Knicks, but for the entire argument. Across from Jalen Brunson stood the kind of opponent that made Becky Hammon's original point feel alive again. Size, length, physical dominance, the old championship blueprint. Everything history said should matter most. And yet, in the biggest moments, the smallest superstar on the floor kept taking over. Brunson did not play like a man trying to win an argument. He played like a man trying to finish a job. Every shot felt heavier than basketball. Every drive carried years of doubt. Every possession seemed to ask the same question: do you believe him now? The final game became the perfect storm. The Knicks were on the road, the pressure was suffocating, the opponent had momentum, and for a stretch, it looked like New York might have to wait again. That was the fear every Knicks fan knew too well. The fear of another almost. Another heartbreak. Another season where the story sounded beautiful until the ending turned painful. But Brunson refused to let history slip away. He attacked the lane with no hesitation. He created space against bigger defenders. He absorbed contact, stayed balanced, and kept making the kind of shots that turned doubt into silence. When the game tightened, he became calmer. When the defense got bigger, he became sharp. When the moment demanded greatness, he gave New York everything it had waited 53 years to see. And the most powerful part was not just the points. It was the control. Brunson controlled the pace. He controlled the emotions. He controlled the silence inside the arena every time he hit another impossible shot. You could feel the shift happening. The opponent was no longer just defending a player. They were defending a destiny that suddenly felt unstoppable. In the final minutes, every possession felt like a scene from a movie New York fans had been waiting their entire lives to watch. The ball found Brunson. The defense loaded up. The crowd held its breath. And again, he delivered. By the final buzzer, there was nothing left to debate. The Knicks were champions. Jalen Brunson was Finals MVP. And the basketball world had to sit with the truth. A player many people said was too small had carried the biggest city in the NBA to the top of the sport. He did not need to scream. He did not need to name the doubters. He did not need to turn the celebration into revenge. The trophy said enough. The confetti said enough. The streets of New York said enough. And somewhere inside that celebration, those 6 words from December 2023 were no longer an insult. They had become part of the legend, the real winner of this story. So was Becky Hammon wrong? That is the question everyone wants to answer quickly. But the truth is more interesting than a simple yes or no. Hammon was speaking from history, and history gave her a strong case. For decades, NBA championships were usually built around physically dominant superstars, bigger players, stronger players. Two-way forces who could bend a playoff series with size as much as skill. That pattern was real. But Jalen Brunson proved something just as real. History is not a prison. It is a record of what happened before someone brave enough, skilled enough, and disciplined enough comes along to change the conversation. Brunson did not erase every old rule. He challenged the idea that those rules could never be broken, and that is what made his story powerful. He did not win because people doubted him. He won because he used doubt the right way, quietly, patiently, without bitterness, without turning himself into the same noise that surrounded him. That is the lesson. Not every criticism is hate. Not every doubter is an enemy. Sometimes criticism becomes the mirror that forces greatness to sharpen itself. Becky Hammon gave an honest basketball opinion. Jalen Brunson gave an unforgettable basketball answer. And somewhere between those two things, the NBA got a story that reminded everyone why sports still matter. Because sports are not just about height, contracts, rankings, or projections. They are about people who refuse to let the world define their ceiling. They are about teams that believe before everyone else does. They are about cities that wait for decades and still show up with hope. And they are about moments when one player steps into the brightest lights and proves that the impossible was only impossible until he did it. For the Knicks, this championship was more than a trophy. It was a cultural reset. It told every fan who had suffered through disappointment that loyalty still has meaning. It told every young player watching at home that being overlooked does not mean being finished. And it told the league that leadership does not always arrive in the body people expect. Sometimes leadership looks calm. Sometimes it looks quiet. Sometimes it looks like a player walking into a hostile arena, carrying an entire city on his shoulders, and still trusting the same footwork, the same discipline, and the same preparation that got him there. That is why Brunson's legacy feels different. He did not chase respect by demanding it. He earned it possession by possession until respect had no choice but to find him. And maybe that is the most human part of this whole story. We all live with voices telling us what we are not. Not tall enough, not strong enough, not talented enough, not ready enough, not special enough. Brunson's journey reminds us that the loudest answer is not always spoken. Sometimes the loudest answer is consistency. Sometimes it is patience. Sometimes it is showing up again and again until the world has to update its opinion. That does not mean every critic is wrong. It means every dream deserves the chance to be tested by work, not destroyed by assumption. Becky Hammon did not need to become a villain for Brunson to become a hero. Both sides can exist in the same story. One represented the weight of history. The other represented the courage to challenge it. And when those two forces collided, basketball became more than a game. It became a lesson about growth, humility, belief, and the danger of deciding. Jalen Brunson did not just win a championship. He gave every overlooked player a new piece of evidence. He gave New York a memory it will never let go. And he gave the basketball world a reminder that greatness does not always look the way we expect. Sometimes it is not the tallest player. Sometimes it is not the loudest star. Sometimes it is not the name everyone believed in first. Sometimes it is the one who hears every doubt, says nothing, and keeps working until the whole world has no choice but to listen. Now I want to hear from you. Comment 1 if you believe Jalen Brunson completely proved the doubters wrong. Comment 2 if you think Becky Hammon still had a fair historical argument. And if you love NBA stories like this, make sure you subscribe, like, and share this video with another real basketball fan.